my partner gave me what he called his green light. Had an amazing night with my friend. I learned his last relationship had been open, which I didn't even know about. So we just had this wonderful like bonding time of like talking about all this. And I experienced, again, compersion that I didn't know anything about. I could not wait to get back, or another side of compersion, as I like to call it, just the excitement I had to share everything with my partner. I could not wait to tell him everything. I felt more connected to him than I had ever felt before. I thought I had loved my partners to my greatest capacity in my previous relationships. This unlocked a whole other level that I literally didn't even have words for. So the second I left my friend's place, I called my partner. I was gushing. I was so excited. Dead silence from the other side of the phone until all he said was, "I can't believe you did it." And then that just imploded. And of course, whatever relationship dynamic you're in, do not set up your partners. Do not test your partners.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 343. We're Finn and Emma, and today we are excited to talk with Allie. Allie walks us through her journey exploring non-monogamy over the last 8 years. She has also been a speaker and community organizer and non-monogamy educator, which she talks all about our work today.
Yes, as Emma said, we are super excited about this amazing conversation today. And as Allie takes us through her story, you will learn that she hasn't just been into relationships and all of the stuff for the past 8 years. She has been passionate about relationships and human connection since a very, very young age. And it shows. She is now dedicated as an adult to helping people navigate sex-positive spaces consensually, empowered, and respectfully towards everybody involved, and with better communication. She weaves all of this together into her work as a relationship coach, and you can find more about her work at passporttopleasure.com. That's passport, 2, pleasure.com, and you can find links to that, along with the free tools that she shares with us about the relationship ratio and your big why on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the podcast tab, and you will find right there the show notes for Allie, all of the amazing work she does, and photos of Allie as well.
Yes, we're super excited to get Allie's work out there and for all of you to listen to this amazing episode. For anyone who is a premium subscriber, we're going to jump right into the interview with Allie now. And for anyone else, we are going to go through a few announcements. First up, if you're not familiar with the premium subscription, it's a way to skip these announcements up front, but don't worry, you still get important upcoming dates in the outro. And to sign up, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Just scroll down on the homepage and you can find all of the information right there.
Next up, we want to tell you all about our virtual community. Well, let's just call it our community because it's not just virtual, people. We're getting in person.
We are. We have a community retreat coming up this September in the San Francisco Bay Area. We're super excited about it.
Yeah, we just put all of the details out into the community, and we'll be sharing more details here in the next couple of weeks. But for now, if you would like to learn more, you can jump into the community for just a couple of bucks a month. Besides all of our amazing in-person stuff, you also get monthly Q&As, you get a men's group, you get a women's group, and you get daily ongoing support, love, and amazing humans around you all day, every day inside of our app, Mighty Networks app, community. It's fantastic. Check it out.
It is. To sign up, go to our website. Again, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the community tab. All the information right there. Next up, we wanted to remind you that the Week of Visibility for Non-Monogamy is coming up July 15th to the 19th, 2024. So that's just in a little over a month. We're really excited about this event. If you're not familiar, you can go to weekofvisibility.com, or even if you are familiar, go to weekofvisibility.com, find out all of the information, how you can get involved this year. You can also go back and listen to episode 341 with Brett, who talks all about this. Finn and I will be involved. We'll be doing a workshop likely on July 17th. More information will be coming very soon about this. But again, the website is weekofvisibility.com.
And you can find links in the podcast Podcast is a tough word to say when you're a podcaster.
In the podcast show notes.
And the podcast show notes. The last thing we wanted to remind you all about is Emma and I's favorite way to get tested for STIs. Yes, we have a favorite way because that's the type of people we are. It is the service we use. It's the service we love and we've used for years. It is called stdcheck.com. And when you use the links on our resources page or in your podcast player below, you save $10, which brings the cost of a 10-panel test all the way down to $129, which is a freaking deal.
Yeah.
So that makes it affordable. That makes it fast, easy, and discreet. We highly, highly recommend this service. If you are getting out into the world and meeting other people and having a good time, it's wonderful to know your sexual health status so you can share that and be an incredible sexual health advocate and keep everybody you're hanging out with safe, including yourself.
And finally, a quick reminder, go to our website, go to the Contact Us button, and send us a voicemail, send us an email. We would love to hear from you if you want to come on the podcast, share your story, or if you have any other questions or comments for us, please let us know. And with that, we will jump on into the interview with Allie.
Welcome to the show, Allie. We're excited to talk today. It's sunny for both of us, which is a rarity these days. So we're glad you're here. Welcome. Happy Friday. Good morning. All the things. Hello.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to get to know you a little bit better today and dig into your story. But to just get us rolling, do you mind introducing yourself at whatever level you're comfortable? And then we'll get a little weird with it.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I'm a human being from Earth. So nice to meet you. My name's Allie Eisman. I have a company called Passport to Pleasure, where I bring together my 8+ years of experience as a non-monogamy practitioner and educator into one place. And I do that through one-on-one guidance, courses, online courses, eco-luxury retreats, all kind of that good stuff. Basically, the idea is to bring everything I've learned and understand about this journey and about this space into one place. I wish I existed when I had started is pretty much my mission. And that's how I have Passport to Pleasure.
Yeah, well, that's
Awesome.
amazing. If it doesn't exist, build it. I think that's sort of what we've learned about this space. And so I'm always grateful to talk to other people who kind of take that approach.
Yeah. And I'm curious if you could just maybe high level kind of summarize your relationship structure and dynamic at the moment. And then we're going to go back in time.
Thank you. Yeah. So at the moment, I have come to learn that, yes, I am non-monogamous as far as the relationship structures that I prefer to interact with others with, but it's not just a lifestyle choice for me. It's very much my orientation. Most of my life was as a serial monogamist until 2016, where I finally gave myself the gift of being able to really explore what this was. And we can dive into that more. But I do experience hierarchical love. And what that means is I will have a primary partner or a few core partners that are my main relationship structure. And then I may have secondary and tertiary partners as well. And my core partners may as well have other partners as well. But it is a hierarchical structure for me.
Yeah. And to just for today's, as we stand today, what does that look? I mean, what does the ecosystem look like? And
Constellation?
Then the constellation. Yeah.
Yeah. The galaxy of me and my relationships. Currently, I don't have any primary partners. I am dating. I do have a few people that I do see regularly. But no one as a primary partner. I have been intentionally single since my last non-monogamous relationship. My last primary partnership ended at the top of the pandemic. And was just, 2020 was 2020. So
Yep.
it was what that was. And then was just very intentionally just needed to, be on my own for a bit and then started dating and get dating again. Excuse me. Wow. And now have been dating very intentionally, looking for, that primary partnership is really what I would like to step into next.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, we will catch back up to real time in a few minutes, but I would love to go back even before sort of 2016 when you sort of had this, sounds like epiphany moment. What did relationshiping sort of look like for you up until you kind of hit that inflection point?
Yeah, I always describe the journey as serial monogamous to non-monogamy nerd. It's just everything that occurred throughout. So for me, let's go all the way back, right?
Let's go.
I never had the cooties phase. Like that was just not a thing. I was like, how do we put our mouths together? Let's figure it out, And so my first, quote boyfriend was like first grade or something. And we kissed, my first kiss was a French kiss in his backyard being watched by his sister on the jungle gym. So obviously always been into exhibitionism, but from an early age. But yeah, it was very much like I was always partnership minded. I remember the moment I closeted myself, and so was only dating men for that, up until I guess 30 probably. So very much was always in one relationship with one man for about the same amount of time, would then be single for the same amount of time and get into the next one at about the same time. And so when I finally realized at least that pattern, like, okay, this is interesting. I wonder what's on the other side of, that marker of single time. What if I just challenged myself to be single for just longer than that? Let's just see what that looks like. And the answer is, to the question, what's on the other side of that is all of the shit. As I like to say. So that began my deep personal work as far as just growth and looking at myself, my patterning, what I learned about relationship and relating from parenting and all of that yummy, juicy stuff. Still then did get into another monogamous relationship. And I had always been confused about the bad rap that jealousy had, because for me, it was a turn on. I didn't know words like compersion and things like that at this time. I just knew I loved hearing about my partner's other interests, fantasies, other partners. Like that was really yummy and juicy to me. They, of course, needed me to be, like a virgin who had never, done anything and whatever. Cool. Whatever you think is great. But I had kind of started broaching it finally the last few monogamous partners I was with. And both of them, we settled on, okay, we can have a threesome with another woman. Never happened. Not for lack of me trying. And then I finally got into what ended up being my last monogamous relationship. And this was with a man he travels a lot for work. So he's out of town a lot. And I would join him when I could, but I wasn't always able to. And so I said, hey, I'd really love it if like one of these times I'm not with you, if you meet someone, hotel bar, at the event, like whatever it is, you have a connection, that's exciting. Could you, get their consent to take a picture and send it to me and then like enjoy, like, and I want to hear like everything afterwards. That would feel really good. And so one time he did meet someone, they sent me a picture. She was super cute. I was really excited. Couldn't wait to hear everything. And I guess they stayed up all night talking, which is awesome. I'm here for it. That's wonderful. And then another time he was out of town. I was back home, wasn't able to join him. And I had a friend who was coming in to visit, for some work. And we had been friends for years. We did have a sexual history, but very much just friends. So it was like this perfect opportunity of, hey, here's this safe space. Like I'd love to explore. My partner gave me what he called his green light. Had an amazing night with my friend. I learned his last relationship had been open, which I didn't even know about. So we just had this wonderful like bonding time of like talking about all this. And I experienced, again, compersion that I didn't know anything about. I could not wait to get back, or another side of compersion, as I like to call it, just the excitement I had to share everything with my partner. I could not wait to tell him everything. I felt more connected to him than I had ever felt before. I thought I had loved my partners to my greatest capacity in my previous relationships. This unlocked a whole other level that I literally didn't even have words for. So the second I left my friend's place, I called my partner. I was gushing. I was so excited. Dead silence from the other side of the phone until all he said was, I can't believe you did it. And then that just imploded. And of course, whatever relationship dynamic you're in, do not set up your partners. Do not test your partners. Even if it was something like he thought he would be okay with and then realized in the moment, oh my God, I'm actually not. You just talk about that. You go, hey, wow, I thought this was a boundary I'd be uncomfortable with. It's actually really not. I'm really feeling, uncomfortable and safe right now. Can we talk about this? You don't make the person wrong. I was honoring an agreement we had. Unfortunately, he needed to frame it that I had done something wrong and, invalidated our relationship and all that fun stuff. So I'm very proud of myself and that I was even able in that moment, in the position I was in, to realize, no, actually, I didn't do anything wrong here. This is real for me. But that was also the moment where I was like, okay, if this is real for me, I need to do this on my own. I need to explore this so that I don't have any other emotional casualties along the way, so that I can figure this out for myself before I start bringing other people in with me. So it was really painful, really hard, really unnecessary, and at the same time, very valuable. And I'll try and wrap this up. That led me to start dating in a new way. Up until that point, I'd only been sexually active with my committed monogamous partners. And I was like, I've never had like a one night stand. I've never like, what is all? Let's do it. Let's start checking it off. But yeah, so I started, all the apps, started going on a few dates. And it was pretty quickly. Actually, I was basically like, universe, I know there's communities out there. I don't know how to get involved, but like, here we go. We had a lovely afternoon together. We were getting cleaned up. And he goes, there's this community you might be interested in. And that was his whole purpose in my life. We never saw each other again. It was a wonderful day. I went to my first play party on my own. I was very lucky. I had two very generous hosts who were so excited. It was my first party. So introducing me to everyone, really lovely. And I'll never forget this. Like, I had gone, I'd been like, I don't need to play with anyone. Let me just like go meet people, see what the environment's about. No pressure. And it was like later in the evening, it was in this like beautiful penthouse hotel room, and it had kind of cleared out. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I was talking to the host, and I was like, I was expecting, I guess, to see like more stuff happening. And like, it seems pretty early. Like, this is kind of funny. And they were like, oh no, honey, come with us. And they like led me around this corner I didn't even see. And it just like opened up into just like the orgy room. It's just like a Renaissance painting. Just like, honestly, it was just another like, like moment. That night with my friend was so confirming, so validating, really let me know this was real. And then seeing this and being in this environment and how it landed in my body, it was literally one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. And it had such resonance of like, oh, this is real. This is healthy. This is normal. You're home.
Yeah.
And that was just, and that began so much expansion and growth.
Yeah. There's a lot in there I would love to unpack. I'm super, no.
I tried to make it.
No, it's amazing. I think the first place I would love to start is back with, you made a comment that you remember very explicitly the moment you closeted yourself. And if you're open to sharing a little bit about that experience, because I have to imagine there's a lot of people who have that moment of something happened or some things happened, hide. And I'm curious what that looked like for you.
It was in the gym locker room. I will save names, but we had a gym teacher who I thought was great, a little kooky, but like, that's my cup of tea. So, I remember being in the girls' locker room and all the, I had never really had like a clique, but I had friends in like every group. So kind of like, it was a floater, fit in everywhere, but nowhere kind of thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And a bunch of the, quote, cool girls would make fun of this teacher very specifically for allegedly being a lesbian. They accused her, amongst themselves, at least, and amongst the students, of looking at the girls in the shower. I never saw that happen. That's inappropriate behavior regardless of sexuality, but like sexuality, I learned, was like, you do not want to be a lesbian. That is bad. That is how you get ostracized. It's a bad thing to be. And what that means is like, you look at girls, and I looked at girls. Girls are beautiful. Like I wanted to be around girls all the time. I got fluttery. It was exciting. And I learned that was bad. So shut that down. But it didn't stop the feelings. So and that ended up turning into was, if I felt what I now understand to be attraction towards a young woman, I would become their best friend. So I just friend zone myself the second. And I'm still working against it because I immediately become 12 when there's a pretty girl in the room. It's an ongoing journey. But no, it was a very, I remember very vividly the emotional experience in that moment. Like, I can feel the room. I see the colors. I feel the sensations in my body. There was fear, confusion. And it was just like, oh, shut that door. Like, this is a non-starter now. If I liked women later in life, it was for men, oh, it's exciting for you that I will play with women or that I'm attracted to women. And, only, in this most recent, decade of my life, have I been able to start exploring, oh, what is it for me to just have pleasure with a woman emotionally, physically, whatever, for me and for her. And that's it.
Yeah.
And it's been, pretty great.
Yeah. It sounds amazing. And I think, that experience is clearly, like, in a lot of ways traumatic, right? It's hung with you for this long, but in some ways it's almost like, it sounds like when you get around women in that way now, you almost revert back to that. Like,
100%.
I still haven't resolved how to do this with women. Like, it sounds like men you've had that one figured out, but
Yeah, I
or at
get
least you're figuring it out. Figuring it out.
yeah.
Not that we ever figure anything out, but I mean, it's traumatic, but also a really beautiful sort of journey. So appreciate you sharing, Allie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking and for creating the space for it.
Yeah, yeah. And so moving forward into we'll call it the serial monogamy phase. I'm curious if you've sort of thought or unpacked it all. What's happening like every 2 years that kind of you would hit that point
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
what was sort of coming up for you at that juncture?
Yeah. I mean, the best way I can describe it is I would make my relationship choices pretty much based emotionally entirely. No logic. Oh, we have this connection. Oh, there's this. I confused chemistry for compatibility for a good chunk of that. So I would get into relationships with people that we had this, instant fire, this instant what have you, and then would begin to learn how we just were not compatible, but rather than look at it, address it, talk about it, make a decision. The goal is to stay in a relationship in our society. You're together and you be together, and love is sticking it out no matter what. And da 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 da. And it wasn't fair to either of us. We were not compatible. Resentment was building up. I felt trapped in a lot of ways. Again, didn't even know that there were other relationship dynamics that were an option. I still don't think, I would have stayed with any of those partners because again, I wasn't choosing partners from a state of like, are you someone I want to build something with? It was like, hey, we get each other, we're connected, we have this instant chemistry, which is, nice, but does not a great partnership make necessarily.
Totally.
Yeah, so it would be, I think my threshold for patience just mixed with just getting to a point where I couldn't take it anymore, and it would implode in one way or another. And it's unfortunate, and I take responsibility for that as well. I was a participant in that. We also we don't know what we don't know, and growth is a journey. Nobody shoots out, day one knowing everything from every perspective possible throughout history. Like that's the frustration I have with like cancel culture. Like we have to be able to make mistakes. It sucks that it ends up sometimes hurting other people, and owning that and being responsible for that and working on repair is the only way I know forward that we can make use of that.
Yeah.
All that to say, yes, incompatibility, and meeting my threshold for patience.
Yeah. It's so real. And I think that is a really common, I mean, this is something we've experienced and I think we see experienced a lot, which is, there's this, it's an amazing connection. I was going to say, it feels like an amazing connection. I mean, it probably is, right? It's hella passionate. It's hella amazing, but there's something in there that ultimately sounds like it comes to the forefront that there's an incompatibility. Maybe it is the sort of personality down the road, but it might also just be like logistics, right? We have offsetting work schedules, or we live too far away, or just whatever number of things. But then it's like you said, it's that pressure to power through. Well, hey, there's passion, there's chemistry. We must be compatible because I might never find this. We get on the escalator and we ride it to the top and beyond.
Yeah, and we didn't even know we got on sometimes. We didn't even know we bought a ticket. Like, that's what happens in this like binary construct of either or, right? Like you are either together or you are not together, and those are your options, and that is it. That I have what, may be an unpopular opinion even in our community, but not so much that I believe non-monogamy can like save your marriage, but it can save you potentially from divorce. And that doesn't mean every person who's pursuing divorce, but I would wager that at least 5% of people that are pursuing divorce would actually be served by exploring non-monogamous dynamics, because they may love each other still very much. Maybe they have mismatched libidos, or the schedule, or whatever it is. There are other options than just ending something that still has value.
Yeah.
Even though it's changed somewhat. That's a bit of a tangent, but yeah.
Yeah, that it can morph and change into something different, but we're not taught that often.
Exactly.
Well, and I think too with marriage, I think it's often, and these are my own opinions, obviously, but I think often if it was a non-marriage relationship, I think people have an easier time saying, well, we can open that, bring somebody else in to do, it sounds really yucky, but like not necessarily bring somebody else in, but I can seek wants and needs outside of this relationship structure. I think when it switches to marriage, I think people really heap a lot of, we have to sleep together, we have to eat together, we have to learn together, we have to do everything together because we've now wrapped it in the marriage container. But to your point, if we can take some of those and say, well, you don't even like going to the movies. Like, you hate movies.
Yeah.
And I love movies. Why couldn't I go to the movies with somebody who enjoys going to the movies with me? Well, we're married.
Yeah.
Like, right. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you saying that as well.
Well, and you're touching on an important point with, I mean, marriage is a little different because marriage is a legal contract. So you are taking into account legal considerations. There is unfortunately slowly we're getting state by state little bits of protection here and there. But, if you're in a non-monogamous dynamic, you have no legal protections work-wise. You can lose your children. There are still it still shows up in the DSM as a disorder. We can go down the laundry list of how insane this is, but there are different considerations with marriage. What you're touching on is labeling. In our society, we treat like the label as the security. Oh, you're my boyfriend. You're, my wife. You're whatever it is. We're good. We're secure now. Everything's great. We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to, even if all the experiences in our relationship are super insecure, you're my husband. So we're good. And that is it's just not how it works. Just plain and simple.
Yeah, once we achieve marriage, everything else is we're safe.
Yeah,
we achieved it. We're good. Yeah. And yet every day we have to work up and bust our asses to make the marriage work.
Yeah, and that's why I guide like my clients. Your relationship security comes from your relationship experience, not what you call it or not. It's something that you are recurringly experiencing, and if you are experiencing consistent insecure experiences, you are going to have insecurities come up. That is something that needs to be addressed. And there's nothing wrong. Like this, it ties into jealousy as well. Like jealousy is a beautiful tool. It's not something to run away from and be concerned. But I think there's like a big misnomer that people who are in non-monogamy don't experience jealousy. Like I hadn't actually experienced jealousy. It was only compersion. And then I actually got to experience jealousy for my first time in my first non-monogamous relationship. Because there were insecure experiences in that relationship and insecurities that each of us were not dealing with. And it was an incredible experience to be able to lean into that, look at it, figure out what was there for me to work on my own, and then also to work on with my partner, because it's not always the same. Anyway, again, another tangent. I'm really good at those.
It's all good. It's all good. Tangents are fine.
Yeah, I love that framing too of I got to experience jealousy. And I think that shifting that, right? It's not, oh, it happened to me. I had to, it was a slog, but
it still might not be fun.
Oh, hell no. It's not comfortable.
Not fun. But that is the only way to sort of know those things is to experience them and to work through, like you said, you had the opportunity to work through it as an experience. And then you get to decide, what am I going to do with it?
Exactly.
Right? What does that do for me on the other side?
Yeah. When I learned that physiologically excitement and nervousness are actually the exact same, like physiological reaction in your body. It's the story that makes them different. I was like, oh, well, if that's true for that, what else is it true for? And like you just said, yeah, I got to. I choose that language specifically. I get to experience this. Things do occur. I am the one who decides how I interact with those things. They are happening. They're just happening. They're not happening for me or to me. They're just happening. I get to decide if they are now happening to me or for me. So for me, it's very much, I get to do this. It's slightly problematic terminology. I apologize for what I'm about to say. And that way I don't have better language right now. So if anyone listening does, please send it to me at Passports of Pleasure. But I am an experience junkie. The more I experience, the more information I'm getting, the more my life expands, the more I learn, the better I'm able to communicate. Like, give me the experiences. And that's all, the whole rainbow. I have had very high highs and very low lows, and they all have value.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that and pointing that out too, because it's easy to see things that are, as more like a bad and good thing. And like, instead of, instead reframing it as high highs and low lows, and that it's life and ups and downs, and that they're all experiences and they all each have value for themselves. I mean, it's hard to see that in the
Of
moment
course.
sometimes,
Yeah.
but that reminder, even if you're going through whatever you're going through, like just that reminder, like this is an experience,
Mhm.
this is an experience, like can be
Yeah,
comforting.
this is really uncomfortable. I am really not enjoying this. I cannot wait until it shifts into a different experience. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I would love to talk a little bit about what sounds like the one of the biggest nights in terms of shifting your dynamic, which was, as you kind of feel like, getting set up, right? It sounds like it was a test to see if you would go through with this. It wasn't I'm not, or maybe it was, right? I don't know if I could do this, but I'm going to, who knows? But it didn't go the way that you were wanting. But it sounds like what you did come away from that was an experience of knowing that you could go and have a deep connective experience, sexual or not, with somebody else, walk away from it just as, or even maybe more excited and connected to your existing partner versus it tore you apart. You were like, oh, well, that was an amazing night. Why don't I just do that every night and fuck that person that I just, have been in a relationship with? So this sounds like it was the moment that like your world cracked open to the possibilities.
Very much. Very much.
And it meshed with the world of, this is also not okay. How dare you do this to me?
Yeah. Which is incredible. I really want to speak to that for a moment, because something I see a lot with my clients is, the reason they're coming to me is for support, because most people, I mean, we don't have a society that supports anything other than monogamy as a norm or as even healthy. So very well-meaning friends and family will often give advice to, couples especially, but also like individuals who are stepping into the space who are naturally going to experience some friction. They're getting advice like, well, hey, this wasn't a problem until you opened up. So maybe you shouldn't be opening up, that kind of a thing. And rarely that can be the case, because you do need a solid foundation before you're stepping into this space. But non-monogamy doesn't cause friction. It does bring to light things that were easier to slide under the monogamy, rug, if you will, and not talk about, and make assumptions and all that. So I'm very glad that I had been able to at least have the personal development journey that I had had up to this point, that gave me the self-knowledge enough to say, even though like I'm in so much pain right now, my heart is breaking, I am so sorry that like you're hurting. I'm hurting because I'm feeling very like attacked and confused and all that stuff. But I know in my bones, and even just purely logically, we had an agreement. I honored the agreement. No one was coerced. There was we agreed on a thing. We tried the thing. If the thing doesn't work, let's talk about it. It's not making somebody a villain. And that was what really keyed me into it again, of the, like you said, the, black and white, good and bad, positive, negative, like what's the value here? Can we find value? But no, that was very much used as, it was weaponized against me. So I'm very grateful I was able to understand to some extent what was going on, and slowly but removed myself. It wasn't immediately that day. It was definitely a breakup process. And I actually very very humbled and grateful. We ended up getting counseling from a couple friend of ours who is very much not monogamous, and they were even, I think that was a huge part of it too, is the fact that they were even able to say, hey, I could never do this. This is something that would not work for me, but it is clearly very real for Allie. So the conversation is this something you guys can do together? That is so rare. And I am forever grateful to Justin and Emily Baldoni for being the humans that they are in that moment. Yeah, was a very supportive experience, and enabled me to make a very hard but very important decision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and they helped you both, it sounds like, in that relationship, and were there to kind of, I guess, provide that mirror back in some ways.
Yeah, which again is so rare. Like, I really, getting the right support, I mean, seeking out community if you're going to step into this space is key. Look up, poly groups in your area, anything like that. Work with a guide, someone like myself who's been on this path, who is still on this path, who has the resources. Read everything you can, like all of that, so that you have, there is just nothing in mainstream society. We are constantly getting the messaging that this is the one size fits all relationship, and anything outside of it is dysfunctional. And that is just not factual.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so you wind up at this party.
I know, I was going to go to the party.
How do we get into this part? Yeah.
No, I mean, it's amazing. I'm not trying to like gloss over it. I think, but there is this now moment of you go around the corner, the clouds part, the angels are singing. Where does this take you? Because that's a big moment to like walk around the corner and it's a painting of a Roman orgy, but it's not a painting. It's a real life play.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll start by saying really specifically, like, you do not have to be non-monogamous to go to a play party, and you do not have to go to a play party if you're non-monogamous. These are separate interests and curiosities that I had that were a part of my journey.
Yep.
The sex positive space is vast. There are all the flavors you can think of to explore. I was just getting started at this point. It has become a big part of my life. I do sit on the board of one of the most prominent play parties in Los Angeles called The Play. We are the first and unfortunately so far still the only play party to require STI testing of all of our guests. We're really trying to set a new precedent and standard for safety and health in the community. And yeah, it's just a beautiful, creative community. And I say the word community over and over again because it is very much a community. Yes, there are clubs you can go to, dungeons you can go to. There are just, small social gatherings at people's homes or happy hours. We're a large theatrical event that, we don't have a specific space. We have different spaces that we will produce our events in, but we are at the core very much a community of artists who just happen to throw sex parties. So it's a huge part of my life. It is just a space to be fully self-expressed and safe in a safe way. It is a level of consent and communication that I don't experience anywhere else in the mainstream world. It has enabled me to practice just a standard of communication. But like I said, I feel a lot safer in that environment than I do even just going out to a bar, getting a drink. I have too many stories I have heard and directly from friends. They went to the bathroom, came back, there was a drug in their drink, and horrible things happen. And all that to say, it was quite a journey from that party to where I am now. There are certainly plenty of spaces that are not in alignment with my value system within this space as well. And, there's different strokes for different folks, but figuring out what I'm interested in, what my boundaries are, enabled me to find and align with the right community. And so know that like your first experience of non-monogamy, of a play party, of any of these new things, your first experience is not necessarily indicative of the whole space. Like I said, I was lucky my first play party was actually a very warm, encouraging, safe experience. That's not always the case. And it certainly wasn't every experience I've had in that space. I've had unpleasant experiences in this space, but that's not the whole space. It's not indicative of everyone in it. There's just, there's healthy and unhealthy people, places, and relationships in any space you're going to be in.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I'm grateful you said that. But it sounds like yours was good enough for you, at least that first one, that you went back.
Oh yeah,
enough times, and now you're on the board. I didn't just
go back. I started hosting my own party, like with that different communities. And like when I get into something, I go like all in. But that's also why it's really important to me to align with people who have, the same level of integrity and things like that. So it took me hopping around to a number of different communities before I ended up aligning with the play. And I'm now doing what I'm doing with them.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, like, so you go down this road of kind of really like just discovering this part of yourself and learning all the things and jumping right in. And kind of what does that look like on a relationship level too?
Yeah. Well, and I'll adjust that. And I want to say two other things too, as a part of the journey. Like I did actually end up going back to school to pursue my master's in clinical psychology because I was like, oh, this is like really interesting to me. And as much as I really loved the program, I mean, I could talk about just human nature and communicate like all day. This is my jam. There was no material, no course curriculum, no reference material, nothing in regards to, what we call alternative relationship dynamics, non-monogamy, polyamory, open relationships, anything like that. And that was my interest. That was what I wanted to focus on. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to do all this self-study and immersion anyway that I'm doing in my personal life. Let me save the $100,000 and like do this stuff on my own. And that's was the hard decision that I made to not, go back to school, get my master's, but I have been immersed completely and just nerding out like hardcore the entire time. I love this stuff. I cannot study enough. I cannot talk to enough people about it. I cannot practice enough. For me, all of my relationships are, even if it's just one date, there is value there. There is something interesting. I love meeting people at wherever they are on their journey, and learning. Like this is an element that relates to your initial question, is like, what does that look like with relationships? So something I learned, I really love bringing people into this space. I get so excited because I know how much growth and how much, community that I'd never really been able to find anywhere else. Just so much of my life expanded, my professional life, financial life, physical life, like everything, right? So when someone is stepping into this space, I get super excited, whether that's just, dating non-monogamously or opening up their relationship or coming to their first party. I really love being like a guide of bringing people into that space. And what I realized kept happening is I was dating these folks. So I kept bringing people to their first party, for example. So they're having these really important experiences and these lessons, but I'm having to go through the same lesson and experiences over and over and over. And it's new and important for them, and they need to, and I want them to go through it. But I also needed to grow. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of in this loop right now. And if I don't set a boundary of, I can't date people who aren't at least somewhat experienced in the space or along the way. I'm not gonna get to grow too. And that was actually a part of how I realized, okay, but how do I still offer these things? Because I do get regularly, I've been working with couples and individuals for at least 4 years now at this point, informally, I guess. And that was kind of part of the launch of Passport to Pleasure was A, how do I do this more formally in a way that creates a healthy boundary for me? And B, how do I make it more widely accessible to folks? So it's not so dependent on you have to meet me or know me, like creating online courses, things like that. So that is a huge way that it impacted relationships, is like really actually helping me discover boundaries I didn't know were there. Because I used to joke like, oh, it's my kink to like bring people in, and like sort of, I do enjoy it, but it's not actually additive to my life in a way that is progressive and like moving forward. So.
Totally. Well, and not that one is better, right? Like you said, that first, if you're thinking about it like a video game, right? Like level 1 is really important because that's where you learn a lot of the skills that you need for level 2. And then level 3, right? This is back to all of the things we were saying earlier about the experiences are so important and we learn from them. But if each time you go through this, you get to start back at level 1 and you get to play level 1 like 100 times, it's like, okay, well, what's level 2 like? Do I get to even see that one, or back to level 1? So I can totally understand that.
Like what's the big boss on level 2, and are they hot? Like these are important questions.
And what do I need to challenge myself on, right? Am I going to hit that big boss on level 2 and completely implode? Maybe that's the first time jealousy shows up. And again, not that jealousy has to be a bad thing, but maybe that's where that experience was at, and you never get to get there, right? Because you're always starting over. So I think that's it. Thinking about these things as really the experience and the journey. And I think too, what's important is, your big boss on level 2 is going to be different than Emma's, which is different than mine, which is different than the person you maybe showed up to that party with. And so we're all like, we might be in the same physical space, but we're all experiencing something wildly different.
Yeah.
So, it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as you've gone on this journey, how's it gone coming out more in those spaces and with other people in your life? Because that's definitely been part of your journey, I can tell as well. And we talked about the locker room incident at the beginning, and like, I'm just curious how that has evolved for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting road, because there were multiple coming out. Sexuality, relationship dynamic desires. I'm out in every way I can think of to be at this point in my life, which is exciting. And there's some trepidation in certain ways as well, but there's a level of just reached a point in my life and a point in society where I'm like, all right, I am, let me check. Yep, I am out of fucks. I am officially at capacity for that. And if I want to be a part of shifting things, or I should say, if I want to shift things, kind of what you were speaking to, earlier, Finn, like if it's not there, build it. If it's something you want. If I say I want things to change, I need to be a part of that. I need to be the conversation, not like just me, but I mean like contribute to that conversation that may or may not exist yet, or that's just starting, and be a part of continuing it. Like, we're having this, everyone's calling it, a moment. Polyamory is having its moment. It's not the first time. And my hope is we're at this point in society that, we have all manner of communication and ways to connect that we did not have back in, the 90s when Ethical Slut came out, and there was this, same kind of moment. My hope is that this will be much more than a moment, that this is the beginning of a normalization of, hey, there are various relationship structures. Let's just talk about relating instead of saying there's this one way to do things. So to your point of like, what's it been like coming out? I consider myself lucky in most ways in that each stage of my coming out has been up to me. And that's not, my sibling was not given that luxury. They were outed by their school when we were very young in a very inappropriate way. And it was a very threatening experience that they went through. And I can only imagine, my experience of that experience for them was, in one way, we were lucky that, we had parents, like they didn't get kicked out. There was nothing like that. There was certainly unpleasantness that occurred for them. But, we had our mom took them to get their first mohawk. Like there were, lovely things too, at least from, again, being on the outside of that experience. So when I know of things like that, and friends of mine who shared their stories of, their birth family is just not in their life anymore, and it was very traumatic and all that stuff. And then I consider mine where it's just, I just started sharing it with people. And again, like that evolution of realizing that I initially kind of was coming out for the pleasure of my male partners, and then realizing, oh, well, that's not really me coming out. Then that's not about me. So what if this is about me? And then dealing with the fallout of realizing that some relationships were not as healthy as they could have been, were not really, again, about me in any way. And, like the male gaze component of it, really, again, shifting it to coming out about who I am and how I'm expressing now, and like owning the word queer. Even like I still am working on it. There's like what's the best way to describe it? There's almost like who am I to use this word? I don't, look the way I should or date the way I should. I'm not in the right communities to be allowed to say I'm queer or like anything like that. I'm not queer enough, and this is all internal, right? And it's a journey. Discomfort is not a reason for me to not do something. Not being safe is a different thing. I'm uncomfortable most of the time because that's growth, right? New experiences. An example I like to use is I actually have social anxiety. No one would know. I speak all the time. I host events. I do all this stuff because it's always putting me in that slight discomfort, but it expands my life, right? So I've had somewhat uncomfortable coming out moments, but for the most part, it's been very positive. It's been very expansive. And if there has been any disruption around it, I lean in. I explore like, hey, is this something that's salvageable? Is this a learning opportunity for both of us? Or is this something that like this other person is really committing to just a framework that does not work for me? And this is the, end of our friendship, relationship, whatever it is. But for the most part, it has been a very positive ongoing experience.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I'm grateful that it has been.
Me too.
Me too. Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like you've had opportunities over the years to explore that in a multitude of ways, right? You've had the experience of doing it, like you said, for the male gaze, for somebody else. And you know what that feels like. And now you've had the opportunity to do it for yourself. And now you know what that feels like. And I think I kind of hear some parallels in being able to sort out the difference between discomfort and I can't remember the exact, but like safety. Like I'm not necessarily unsafe. I'm just uncomfortable. And I think that is a really hard line to be able to understand in oneself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different, right? It's different for everybody. And I think, but to be able to say, am I really unsafe or am I just uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we mix it up all the time
Yeah.
and say, oh, I'm just uncomfortable, but I feel unsafe. And it's maybe better safe than sorry. And I've also seen this where we go, I'm just uncomfortable. I can push through this. And we couldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just curious for yourself how you've honed that
Hmm.
sort of awareness, that radar to say, am I unsafe or am I just a little uncomfortable? Or maybe a lot uncomfortable, because socializing is uncomfortable for some of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can relate.
Well, I think it's really important. A few different things are important to distinguish. Like the body doesn't know, the nervous system doesn't know the difference between, there's someone with a gun at my face and they're all going to laugh at me. It's the exact same response system in our body. So it's really up to us training and honing our mind and our self-development, our self-awareness to understand, am I literally unsafe right now? Or is this something that, may be very uncomfortable and unpleasant, but I can actually get through? And it is a tough area to work on, and it's an important area to work on. And it's something I see often, the concept of boundaries kind of misused when it comes to this stuff. Boundaries are important to understand about yourself, what I am and I'm not comfortable participating in, trying, etc. Not in a way that they're a wall. It's not, a full stop. Boundaries are where my edges are, so I know where it's safe to push. When I'm in a safe container with a safe person, I'm feeling all that stuff. Because if they're the edges of our comfort zone. So if we use boundaries as a full stop wall, we are in our comfort zone for our entire life. We never grow. We're never challenged. We're never experiencing new things. But if we know where our boundaries are from a sense of, okay, I know where this is, so I know which area I can just, gently push on in the right environment, then we start being able to expand those boundaries and thus expand our life and our capacity, etc. Of course, the complication of, trauma response in our body, it's a larger conversation, but it's important to understand, to me, what a boundary really is and what it is not. And the distinguishing factor between unsafe and uncomfortable is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
And you asked, how do I develop it? So for me, again, I've been pushing boundaries in many areas of my life consistently. And that's why I joke, but I'm very serious. I am pretty much always slightly uncomfortable. They're not called growing pleasures, right? There's just a little, something going on. And so I'm at a point in my life, and I do not recommend this for people that are just getting into this space, just starting their journey. But I discover my boundaries now by hitting them head on when it comes to sexual stuff. I mean, certain things I do have, very limited, no thank yous. But if I'm with a new partner, they have blanket consent because I want to discover what's possible with them. And that I don't mean that in relationship framework. There's a relationship agreement. We understand where we're starting. We look at that agreement over and over, regularly adjusting it as needed. But when it comes to trying stuff out, we'll discuss our dib beforehand, our desires, intentions, and boundaries before an event or an engagement or a scene or whatever we're doing. Obviously, beforehand, everything is negotiated. But it is a very open space because I don't know what I don't know. And I would like to experience how they do certain things. And so we'll discover a red in the middle of a scene sometimes. Wow, I did not like that. Okay, let's not do that again. And that's fine. And that's the importance, too, of creating a relationship structure that has the room for mistakes. You have to be able to make mistakes. You are going to make mistakes. Your partner is going to make mistakes. Your partner's partner is going to make mistakes. You have to have relationship frameworks that have the space for that and that are a safe space, not only for you to feel free to bring your mistakes into that space to look at, but also to be an encouraging place for your partner to bring those mistakes. No one can be afraid, oh shit, I messed up. They can't know because that could fall. No, shit, I messed up. Can we look at where the breakdown was? I really want to figure this out with you. I've done a lot of self-reflection. I realize the parts of myself that I need to work on, and these are the parts that I really need to work on with you now. Now, if that mistake keeps happening, it's the same mistake or, the same thing keeps reoccurring. Now we're looking at a pattern. That's a behavioral issue. And that's something you should ideally be seeking outside support for and dealing with completely differently. But an individual mistake, as long as it's different, each time,
Mm-hmm.
that means you're progressing. That means you're learning. And that's how I figure out my boundaries.
Yeah. I love that. I would like to mirror that back because my brain thinks in analogies and metaphors and all of that. As Emma's like, yeah, no kidding. But
It's not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
A good thing. It's
But
just a way our brains are different.
definitely one of the many. But I think what I kind of heard in there around the blanket consent is really blanket consent within a container.
Yeah.
And so maybe that is like, just as a hypothetical, the container that we set, like, hey, we're going to go out on a date tonight. And my limit is hugging, everything up to hugging. Mm-hmm. And then you go into that again. I know this is kind of like a weird analogy, but right. The person like goes and gives you a hug. And the first one's like, yeah, great. And then the next one, like they hug you for 3 minutes and you're like, okay, whoa. Like, yes, it was technically a hug. Mm-hmm. And I learned in there that I have a 2.5 minute limit for hugs right now. Yeah. And so they didn't do anything wrong. They were within the framework. They were giving you the thing that they wanted, assumingly, and that they knew was within the boundaries. But you still discovered, well, that didn't really work, versus, and then the next one, they come up behind you and hug you from behind and they get an elbow to the head because they're like, and so you're like, okay, well, we learned that's not a way to hug, but they were still within the hug container. And they were learning and you were learning, you learned your edges, they learned your edges, they learned their edges. They took, like, there's so much growth that can happen when you say, hey, this is the sandbox we're playing in. Mm-hmm. Go nuts and play in there. And you're going to probably throw some sand in my eyes and I'm going to get hurt and we're going to have to figure out how to repair. Mm-hmm. But that's how we get a bigger container the next time. Mm-hmm. If we want a bigger container, we don't have to. The container can shrink.
Absolutely. It's not linear. It's more like a buffet than anything. Yeah. Like picking and choosing what you're open to. I actually love using it's kind of like cheeky and cheesy, but I love bases. Like I'm open to first base tonight. I'm open to, like it's cute. It's nostalgic, right? And it gamifies it a little bit, but it makes it more accessible and less like we don't have to be like very adult about that, but we understand, first of all, we define what the bases are together. So we know that we're on the same page about what they are.
Yeah.
I was going to comment on that part.
Very, very important. And that's relevant to all language, right? Like we have developed language to be a much bigger part of how we communicate than it actually is. So it's really important that we have these words. It's how, two different brains like yours communicate about your internal experience, but understanding what each of those words mean to each other is super important. When I say that felt good, what does that mean? When I say I am open to taking our relationship to the next level, what level are we on? Where are we going? What does that mean? So defining these terminologies, even terminologies like what is an open relationship to you? What kind of partnerships are you open to with other people? What is an emotional connection? All of that. This is all opportunity. These labels that we talked about earlier too, these are opportunities for us. These are conversation starters. These are not the whole conversation. Hey, I'm non-monogamous. Cool. What does that mean to you? And what does that mean to you? And what are you available for right now? It's not cool. I'm non-monogamous too. Let's not talk about it.
Yep. We must do it exactly the same way. Even if we both have these labels, like we're both hierarchical, we're both relationship anarchists. Like those are just labels. Right. That's like me saying, oh, I love kissing. Like, but how?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
What does that even mean? I love a back rub. Okay. Do you like it soft? Do you like it firm? Do you like it 1 hand, 2 hands, 7 hands? What is your jam?
Yeah.
Right?
It's so funny. We get so nervous about all that, whether it's getting it wrong, we're nervous about whatever it is. That's why I call my company actually like Passport to Pleasure. Like I want that adventure, like that spirit of adventure, that curiosity that we all get for like traveling. I want that same energy for that internal journey. Ideally you're having that internal journey about, what those needs are. Cause a lot of people don't even know how they like their back rubbed. We got to do that part first. And then we start adventuring outward and we start meeting other people and going to new places. But that inner journey that is just as much an adventure. And, somebody coming up from the back and hugging me or hugging me a little too long. Thank you. I know this about me now. I'm going to communicate it to you. So now we can relate to each other better. And do you have, what are your needs? Maybe their minimums are actually more than a hug. And so we might not be compatible in this moment. But knowing those things about yourself, then being able to communicate them and explain them to someone else and hear them and have them explain theirs. I mean, that's the juice. That's foreplay, man. Like all this stuff is so juicy and yummy. And it's something, we just are talking about the avoidance versus the leaning in to discussing all this stuff. Because it's not a conversation about non-monogamy is better or more functional than monogamy. It's the fact that there's a status quo element assigned to monogamy where a lot of assumptions are made where, okay, like we said earlier in this episode, okay, we're dating. That means the same thing to you as it does to me. I'm going to assume you're looking for the same thing that, I am, and that it means the same thing to you. Okay, now we're serious. Okay, now we're living together, and that means this to me, so it must mean that to you. Now we're getting married. And so there's all these assumptions where there need to be conversation regardless of relationship framework. There are people who are monogamous. Monogamy works for some people, and they should pursue that relationship framework if that is the best and healthiest one for them. They still need to be having all these conversations, and ideally they would still have a relationship agreement just like you would with your non-monogamous partners.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which I would love to pick up on a piece in here that I think is a bit of language you've used a few times, or you used it early on. And I would love to talk about it because we haven't heard this very frequently, which is I don't have a primary partner, mm-hmm. but I have maybe multiple, you call them secondary or multiple tertiary partners in sort of the hierarchical range. But I'm curious for you, I think because a lot of people could say, well, I have one partner, therefore they are by default my primary partner. Mm-hmm. Or they've been around the longest. I've been with this person 3 years and somebody brand new came in. Clearly the person who's been there 3 years, that's my primary partner. And this new person is secondary, tertiary, whatever, somehow lesser. And I'm curious for you, the choice to say, I don't have a primary partner. I have multiple secondary or other connections, and sort of how you view sort of that framework, I guess, is maybe the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you drawing attention to that. Thank you. Because everything you just said, there's, what I heard where I measure, not you, but like in these examples, I'm measuring the quality or impact of my relationship based on time as one example. Mm-hmm. So for me, when I say primary partner or core partner, it's someone I'm looking to build a life with. I do want life partnership. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't, the idea we're together forever. I would like the intention, but I understand that there's room for that not to necessarily be the case. But I'm looking to build something consistently and consciously with someone for as long as we're able. And I'm looking for somebody who wants to do that as well, ideally with me, so that we can do it together. And for me, that's what primary partner is. Somebody who's been in my life, who's important to me, but isn't maybe somebody that I also would like my primary partner to be my nesting partner. I've actually never had a nesting partner. I would really like to experience that. And for me, that's something, at least at this stage, that I would really like to do with somebody who is also my primary partner. So those two things are, do not necessarily always go together. Yeah. For me, it's somebody kind of back to an earlier part of the conversation of realizing that I was dating people who were very dramatically not compatible. So for me, a primary partner is a lifestyle choice. There are certain, doesn't mean we have to do everything together. That's not what I'm saying, but are we additive to each other's lives in the ways that we each really want to be and want from a partner? To me, relationships, healthy relationships are inherently reciprocal. There's a tendency in our world to say, transactional relationships are this nasty thing, or people will actually, what I have found is a lot of people will hide very transactional frameworks underneath the guise of, I don't believe in transactional relationships. It should be organic and we go with the flow and da-da-da. And it ends up being a very one-sided relationship because what they're saying is, no, I will be here to receive all day. And I'm going to want a lot from you, but you better not need anything from me because I don't believe in transactional relationships. That is a bit of a red flag. So all that to say, reciprocity is important. The kind of reciprocity needs to be compatible and the capacity for it needs to be aligned as well. So that's what I mean when I say primary partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love that you brought it full circle back to the compatibility, because that was the first thing that came to mind when you sort of started unpacking that a bit was exactly that, you know, perhaps some of these relationships from the before times would have been quote unquote successful if they had had a better container to say, your capacity is this, my capacity is this. Our partnership should be, we see each other once a month for a wonderful dinner and a great walk on the beach. That's what we do well together.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to force ourselves to move in together, do all of
Yep.
the things we want to, but to be able to look at that and say, no, we can't.
Yeah.
Not because you don't want to or I don't want it, but that's not our thing together.
That's not what we do. Yeah.
That's not what we do. But you also talked about the trap in there, which happens, I think, and I don't ever think it's conscientious of, hey, you know, I really want, like, this would be somebody coming to you saying, I really want a nesting partner, primary partner, all of these. I want the same things as you do. And they have the capacity for 5% of it. And now you're over there going, all right, I'm going to give 195%. I'm giving my 100%. I'm giving 95% of yours. Cause we keep saying we want the same things, but yet
how does that ever work?
Yeah. We can't actually do it. And those are really hard too. Cause then you have to be like, okay, we have the same wants, but we don't have the same capacities.
Yeah. Well,
and like, that's a place for grief to just come rushing in all over you.
very, very much is like wanting something is step one. Like, how are you living your life to give that to yourself, to create the opportunity for it to be given to you? What are you contributing to make that a reality? Wanting something great. I want chocolate ice cream. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to want chocolate ice cream until I go and I get that chocolate ice cream and I find the place that has the kind that I like and I order it and it's got to be in stock and like, da-da-da. This is a very loose metaphor. Then you're the metaphor person. I'm going to leave it to you in the future. But, yeah, there's like, it frees you up where it gets you out of this all or nothing. We're together or we're not together. Hey, I really enjoy spending time with you. At this point, this is the capacity of our relationship right now. I really enjoy doing this and this with you, but I want also more of this. I don't want to not see you anymore because I really enjoy you in my life. Are you open to this being our context? Versus shit, you can't, you know, we're on an escalator that neither of us wants to be on, but like, you know, we got to ride it. I like to think of, do you guys know the artist MC Escher?
Mm-hmm.
So if non-monogamy has an escalator, it was designed by MC Escher.
Perfect. I have not heard that parallel. I love that.
I might pitch off post on that. That's a good.
I love that. I think too I'm happy to grab your chocolate ice cream metaphor and run with it for just a hot second because I think it's perfect in the sense because then what happens? You bring a second person in or a third or fourth, and you're both sitting there going, "I want chocolate ice cream," and invariably likely one of those two people is going to be the person who says, well, damn it, this ice cream is not showing up. I'm going to go grab it. And then they go get the ice cream. And then we start a pattern where we both sit there and go, we want chocolate ice cream. And the pattern starts to get carved into a groove of this person always goes and gets the ice cream, but you both keep saying you want it. And then we see this too, where somebody finally gets to the point where like, I'm not getting it today. And then you both just sit there going, we want the ice cream. Mm-hmm. Why aren't you getting the ice cream? I always get the ice. And then
resentment.
Right? So it's resentment because of the incompatibility. Only one of us had the ability to go grab the chocolate ice cream, not because the other person didn't want it. They don't love it. They don't want to eat it with you. They just, for whatever reason, they can't get up and get it. Mm-hmm. And that's not because they're a failure. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know. Those are very tough moments to sit in and go, we both want a thing. Yeah. And this thing we can't have with the two of us.
And the other way of let's get in there. I'm loving this. The other thing that can be discovered is I really love opening the carton and serving the ice cream. I really hate going to the store because I just get overwhelmed with all the stimuli, whatever it is. Oh, you really love going to the store because you love meeting people and being out in the world, but like touching the cold carton and just like you feel like it's just hard. You have to wait for it to melt. So if you go get the ice cream, I love scooping the ice cream. And then we both have bowls of ice cream and we're both doing the part of it that we love and we don't have to do the part of it that we don't love. That's compatibility.
Yeah.
Now I really want chocolate ice cream, you guys.
I know. I was like, I want some ice cream.
And all we've got is a little bit of cookie butter ice cream in the freezer. But I think it's perfect.
We
Yeah,
have some sorbet.
we have some the idea that we get to both. I mean, I think it pulls it full circle to we get to then define, what does that even mean? I love eating ice cream. I love the scooping part. Emma loves standing in the freezer aisle looking at 700 different flavors. Great. So now we know, like, eating ice cream means Emma goes to the store and I stay at home warming up the spoon so I can scoop the ice cream when she gets back. But we would have made a lot of assumptions, to say we both have to go to the store, we both have to scoop it, we both have to eat it. I eat mine with a fork, she eats hers with a spoon. I don't actually do that. Please don't email us. But we might do this very differently if we were able to sit and talk about it. But those conversations are hard.
Yeah. And you know what? I would love to add this to that those conversations can be challenging. And the more you practice them, the better you will get at them. And the sooner you can have them in any dynamic. I had a really beautiful experience on a first date yesterday. It was just a coffee date. It was a coffee date. And it was this really beautiful thing. I'm in this phase in my life where I'm really learning how to practice receiving. I'm very driven. I'm very dominant in pretty much every area of my life. So practicing power dynamics, power play within BDSM frameworks has been really, really healing for me, allowing me to receive and surrender in a way that I've just never been able to. And it's helped me balance a lot of things in my life. So I'm practicing it in every area that I can with clear communication, of course, down to I can get my own coffee. I can get my coffee. I can get your coffee. Like, that's not a problem. I really enjoy feeling taken care of, that somebody else can grab that coffee, that someone is thinking of me in that way. It allows me to tap into a part of myself that I didn't even know was there or needing attention. It's been and it continues to be a beautiful experience. So I had this date yesterday where he arrived before me and had already ordered. And I got there and he did not offer to get me a coffee or ask me if I wanted a coffee or anything like that. And we kind of sat down and we're starting to talk. And I noticed, we're having perfectly lovely conversation. I was kind of feeling like, I don't know if this is, if he listens to this, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere. Is how I was feeling initially. And I was just noticing, like, oh, I'm really noticing that he didn't even offer or whatever. I need to look at that and I need to ask him a question. And so I said, we got to a point in the conversation where I was like, I can tell you're a great communicator. I would love to ask you a question. Are you open to exploring something with me? And he was. So I said, I noticed, when I came in that you didn't offer this, and I'd love to understand if there was a thought process behind that, instead of, hey, I didn't like that. You really, you should have offered me a coffee. I'm going to make you wrong for that. Or making a bunch of assumptions. I got curious and I led with curiosity. And earlier versions of me would have just written off this date for sure. But I'm at a point in my journey where I was like, I wonder what's here. And he lit up and we got to have this juicy conversation because there was a thought process and he got to share some of his previous experiences and where he was at and why he did that. And then I got to share with him where I'm at and why receiving is important to me right now and how that lands for me. And I'm really enjoying experiencing this part of myself, et cetera, et cetera. And he was so excited to go and get me not only a coffee, but a little chia pudding thing. And it was so juicy. And then the conversation just opened up from there. And I'm really looking forward to our second date.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing that experience too. Like, what power in slowing down, noticing something that's coming up for you, trying to just like communicate, asking for consent of like, hey, I'm noticing this. Like, I want to explore this with you. Are you open to going on that journey with me right now? Like, I'm not sure how this is going to go, but can we try to talk about it? And asking for consent and then leading with curiosity. Like, how beautiful of a way to do that and to have that be received and you met each other in that of like, okay, let's communicate about this. Yeah. And it's just a beautiful example of what effective communication can do.
And curiosity, again, leading from that space of like, we always think our brain, I should say our ego really likes to think it has all the information. Oh, I've seen this before. I know what this is, especially in partnership, right? Oh, I've known you for a decade. I know exactly what you're going to say. I know where you're coming from. No, you don't. You know the 10 prior years of this person. You don't know this person right now. You actually don't. No matter how long you are with someone, you may know patterns, you may know probability, but you do not actually know what they're going to do or what they're going to say. You think you do. And so allowing that possibility, I mean, that keeps a relationship so much fresher than this. Yeah. I always like to joke like, oh, you finish each other's sentences. Isn't that just called interrupting?
I would say that date sounds amazing. First of all, you said it was just a coffee date. It sounds like it was a revolutionary experience for both
It
people.
was beautiful. Yeah. I'm genuinely like, we're planning to see each other again. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it was a really delightful, unexpected and delightful experience.
And to be able to, I mean, just because I could hear, right, we could probably splice in a finishing sentence or sentences to your story that, I've heard so many times of like, he didn't get me a coffee. He didn't even ask. What a rude asshole.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I'm never going to go out. Like, I need a man who can know what I want when I walk in the room. I need a person who can do all of these things. And I know we're like into the gender binary here, but I just, that idea to be able to stop and say, hey, what was your actual experience around this? Right. And maybe he's like, well, the last time I bought somebody a coffee, they yelled at me because they could get it themselves and they don't want to be taken care of. And so I'm afraid to buy coffees for people.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my first date since that happened. And I didn't know what to do. So I just froze and ordered a coffee. And now I get to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Like amazing.
Absolutely. And I get to voice what I want. And he gets the thrill of knowing that he's specifically satisfying behaviors that I enjoy versus just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And like, I do appreciate initiative. He asked me out. I like somebody taking a shot. And at the same time, having the grace for people to be human and have their own experiences. Like, I don't know what it took for him to get there yesterday. Mm-hmm. We have no idea where people are coming from. And it can be as simple, and maybe what if the response was, I think, whatever context. And I go, oh, you know what? That really doesn't work for me. Like, I'm actually in need of this. It's been so nice to meet you, best of luck. I don't think we're compatible at this juncture, but, have a good luck with all the things.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Their answer could have been, I refuse to spend a penny on anybody else or serve anybody in any way. That's your job to get the coffees for me. Yeah. You're like, okay, great. That's not who I am. Life view. Ah. Yep. And we should probably not even have this coffee. Maybe, maybe we just have a great afternoon, but to not be able to interrogate it, I think is just is such a gift that you got yesterday. And you took the initiative to say, hey, I'm going to do this different. And I think that's really cool to be able to say, we could sit here and not know, or we could just talk about it. And you got yourself a second date.
Thank you. And it's participatory on both ends because he also co-created an environment with me where we could talk about that, where I felt safe being like, hey, this might get weird. You down? Like, like that's a co-creation that speaks to, how he showed up and communicated as well. So it's both. We're never an island. We are actually always relating to other people. We are in a constant connectivity, constant relationship with everyone and everything around us. So to be actively practicing all these skills is only going to serve, every area of our life. And that's something I stress to people is it's not just about, well, first of all, non-monogamy is not just about sex. But it's not even just about romantic relationships, partnership. This has impacted every kind of relationship in my life. It has impacted my relationship with money. It has impacted my relationship with my health. It has everything in addition to my family, friends, etc. It has impacted how I communicate with like medical professionals that are helping me with everything. So these skills, whether you decide that non-monogamous relationship frameworks are healthiest for you, or monogamous ones. These skills serve you in your life everywhere. So explore.
Mm-hmm. Spot on. I don't know that I want to say anything about that.
Yeah. No, it was beautifully said. I would love to, in interest of time, would love to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about your work and where people can find you. And
then I have one question after that, because I'm excited to ask it. But yes, let's hear all about. Let's hear about Passport to Pleasure and how you take all of this that you live and weave it into your work.
Thank you. Yeah. So passporttopleasure.com, and it's the number 2, pleasure.com. That is where all of my resources live. That is how you can reach me. Of course, also on Instagram, Passport to Pleasure, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, like all the things. But the hub is the website, of course, and you can reach me directly as well through the contact page there, or DMing me on Instagram. I offer my foundational online course, ENM 101, Exploring Healthy Non-Monogamy, is something that is just something I've been wanting to build for so long, of just like, what is the thing that you can watch, that you can watch alone with your partner, that you can send to a friend who's getting started, that you can give to a potential new partner who doesn't have as much experience in the space as you, who, all the things. What is like the basic foundational like information that you need to just get started? And that is what ENM 101 aptly named is it gives you the language, the vocabulary, and understanding of all the relationship frameworks. It helps you understand not only yours, but if you are partnered, your partner's hierarchy of needs, as I call them, on the emotional and romantic plane and physical and sexual plane. And when you understand where you fall on that graph, it connects you to what I call your IRS, your ideal relationship structure. It's like the friendly IRS. What ideal relationship structure you should at least start with on this journey, because it will satisfy most of your needs. And if you're far away from your partner on that graph, where is the overlap? So we can find the best place for you guys to compromise a little bit, just to at least get started in a safe container. And then once you have that understanding, I walk you through in the course the relationship agreement, which is a literal document. We talked about it a little bit in this episode. It's a literal document that you build with your partner about, what are our boundaries? How do we communicate with and about new partners? What are our safer sex practices, our exposure plan? What is our co-parenting plan? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the big, the big elements that you need. And also setting up how you're going to review this on a regular basis, because it is a living, breathing document, just like your relationship. You're going to grow. Your partner's going to grow. Your relationship is going to grow. So this is meant as like guideposts, basically, along that way. And so that is ENM 101. It's a great primer to get started. But even before that, I offer a couple free resources. One of them is called Your Big Why. The worksheet is called What the Fuck Do You Want? There's a lot building up to figuring out, why do you even want to do this? If you don't know why you even want to explore, you definitely shouldn't be exploring it, because that big why is really going to inform all of the decisions you make along this journey. So really getting that dialed in and practicing sharing it. It's a big deal. You need to be able to communicate it to other people. And once you have that dialed in, the other free resource I offer is called the relationship ratio. So if you are partnered, this worksheet will help you determine if you are in a, stable contributory place to add in other elements, or to just open up the relationship in whatever context and start exploring what's out there with your partner. And it basically takes the idea of reciprocity in a new way by helping couples understand that if you're in a couple, you're actually already in a threesome. You have you, your partner, and your relationship. And all three of those parties deserve just as much attention and effort as the other. And so through a number of different reciprocity exercises, you kind of see where you land right now, and if you have a solid framework, and it gets them thinking already outside the one-to-one kind of context. So those are the two freebies, the Big Why and the relationship ratio. And we can share links, right? Like we can.
Yep. Links to all this will be in the show notes.
Awesome.
Yep.
And so those are like the online resources right now I have. And then of course you can work with me directly. I walk you through what I call the non-monogamy blueprint. And it's basically a 4-stage process in helping you build everything you need to live this life intentionally, confidently, and safely. So we walk you through stage 1, which is inventory, checking out where you're at now, whether you're partnered or not, really. Your inventory, design, build, and then maintain. And we can do that really quick in one session. We can look at everything. Don't recommend it. If you want a single session, that's more like a spot treatment. If you're dealing with some rupture, or you've got some questions, whatever it is. But I do 4 packs, 8 packs, and 12 packs. So you can really spend as much time as you want on each phase.
Amazing. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for the work you're doing. It is
thank you so
powerful
much.
work, and excited to get that out there. And I'm excited to get your story out there as well. But I wanted to pick at one thing that I think is fun, which is having been in our share of, let's call them sex party spaces, funny shit happens in there. It's always yep. So I'm curious if you have off the top of your head a blooper or two that they don't necessarily have to be like explicit sexually, but just times where you're like, wow, what, looking around going, this is my life today.
Every time.
Right.
I'll always have a moment, like one of my dearest friends.
Can relate.
One of my dearest friends is our founder. I mean, that's my family, that whole community. So like whoever I happen to be sitting next to in a moment, like at every party without fail, really every event, because we do have non-play socials as well. Like we're doing a brunch this weekend. And I'll just have this moment where I'm just like looking around. I'm like, really? Like it can just be like this. Like it can just be safe and delightful and sexy and creative. And like, this is my life. What? Like, there will every single time. And like, again, I've been in this space now, coming up on like 9 years. So like, it still kind of has that impact. Let's see, I'm trying to think of like specific bloopers. I mean, I'm our consent and communication specialist. And what that means at the play parties is I'm our consent fairy. And I take that job very seriously. I have wings and the whole nine. So the wings were a great idea in theory. In practice, at a crowded event with various things and contraptions coming at you from the wall, a little awkward sometimes. It's like, heading up on stage, get caught on something, I make it work. But I'd say the wings generally offer me at least one awkward moment per event.
And a built-in icebreaker for us people with social anxiety.
Absolutely.
You've got something to...
Absolutely. My life motto is I own my awkward. Like you're going to embarrass me? Bring it. I will lean in.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. Exactly.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Allie.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was just such an amazing conversation today. We really, really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Yeah. Very mutual. Likewise.
Yeah, and I'm guessing this won't be our last paths crossing moment. So looking forward to the next one, and have a wonderful brunch this weekend.
Thank you so much.
And we're back.
Perfect harmony.
I don't know about harmony, but anyway, we nailed it. I'm just saying that we're...
No, it wasn't perfect harmony. We'll keep working on our harmonious relationship.
Anyway, thank you.
You got nothing.
I had so many comments that I'm just going to refrain from saying. Anyway, thank you, Allie, so much.
Maintain the harmony? Is that why?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you, Allie, for coming on and sharing today. We love talking to you. And thank you as well for all of the work that you do. As a reminder, I'm getting really tongue-tied. As a reminder to anyone listening, go to the podcast show notes and you can find links to everything that Allie is working on and putting out there. Her website is passport2pleasure.com. That's the number 2.
Yes.
A couple of quick reminders, just upcoming dates. The Week of Visibility for Non-Monogamy is coming up July 15th to the 19th. Finn and I will likely be, we will be involved. We're doing a workshop. It will likely be on July 17th. More information will be coming soon, and you can find out more also on the at weekofvisibility.com. And another reminder, and more information will be coming soon, but we have an upcoming community retreat happening in the San Francisco Bay Area in September of this year. We're super excited about it. So I just wanted to put a quick plug. Again, more information coming very soon.
But the dates for that are September 13th to the 15th.
Yes.
So if you are looking to mark your calendar and get your butt out here, September 13th to the 15th, we'll see you then.
Yep.
All right.
Next week,
we've got an interview.
We do.
We've got an interview with Aria. It's an amazing conversation, and we look forward to seeing you all in a week. Until then, stay cool out there. It's supposed to be hot this week, and have a wonderful weekend. And we will see you all in a week, yeah?
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.